In this episode of the Wicked Pissa podcast, we speak with Annalee Kruger. Annalee started CareRight, a virtual consultancy, in 2011 after working in continuing care retirement communities for 22 years. In this episode, we discussed caregiving options and the challenges, creating an aging plan, navigating family crisis, and much more.
It's time for a Wicked Pissa podcast.
Wicked Pissa podcast?
Wicked Pissa podcast?
It's time for a Wicked Pissa podcast.
Welcome to the Wicked Pissa podcast, a production of the Financial Planning Association of New England, intended for financial planning advisors.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Wicked Pissa podcast. I'm Michael Connaughton, co-founder of Lead Advisor, and I serve on the Partnerships Committee of the New England FPA. Co-hosting with me today is Kevin Williams, founder of Full Life Financial Planning and former president of the New England FPA and current board member. Joining us today is Annalee Kruger. Annalee started CareRight, a virtual consultancy, in 2011 after working in continuing care retirement communities for 22 years. Families were constantly blindsided and ill-prepared for medical crisis such as strokes, dementia progression, urinary tract infections, and beyond, and were thrust into making major care decisions on behalf of aging parents. Families had no idea how to navigate senior care, dementia, changing roles within the family, or how to manage their own lives, plus the new needs of aging parents. And they also had no idea what their aging parents had in order. Annalee has devoted her career to guiding family caregivers and their aging loved ones with decisions about aging, dementia progression, the landscape of senior care, considerations of aging at home, helping outline current and future care options, helping families determine their safety triggers for when parents need care or more care, and the aging at home care budget to prevent families from not qualifying financially to gain admission into a quality care community. She has been curated by over 32 wealth management firms to work directly with their clients. She is a national speaker on aging, caregiving, dementia, family dynamics and mediation, and end of life. She authored The Invisible Patient, the emotional, financial, and physical toll on family caregivers. Annalee also offers training packages for the financial services and healthcare industries, which include in-person webinar and masterminds. She also created the Aging Strategy Coaching Academy, ASCA, the first ever global coaching program that properly addresses aging, family caregiving, dementia and chronic illness, the landscape of senior care, dying, grief, and much more. This is ideal for burned out corporate America healthcare workers who still want to fulfill their passion of serving families and seniors, or retirees or downsized people who have a heart to serve families and their aging loved ones and learn new skills that make a difference. Annalee also created the Elder Planning Specialist Certification Program specifically for CFPs who want to earn a certificate to better identify and address the need of their aging book of business. Annalee, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. That was long.
Well, you've been busy. An in-depth intro for sure. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about all of this. That was a great intro, great background. Obviously, you've been helping advisors, companies, individuals on a number of fronts. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got here.
I got here, I mean, all I know is seniors. I'm an Iowa farm kid, and back in the 70s, there were no real options for seniors. So we moved our grandparents into the farm because the options back in the 70s were they either died at home and failed at home and died at home. They moved in with their kids, or they moved into a nursing home because we didn't have any other really options for seniors back then. So all I know is seniors and how to take care of them and the plight of the family caregivers when care becomes a bit too much for what they're equipped for and what they're prepared for. So I just stayed in that whole thread of senior care, working in the CCRCs, continuing care retirement industry. Like I said, like you said, for 22 years. And I left corporate America in 2011 because I thought I could make a difference in the world. And I do make a difference in the world as an independent consultant for family caregivers who just simply don't understand aging or family caregiver burnout, the financial and physical and emotional toll on family caregivers. And they certainly do not understand dementia progression. So unfortunately, most families come to us as overwhelmed, burned out family caregivers. They love their parents. It's just they're at their wits' end. Enough is enough. And it's starting to, caregiving is affecting their careers, their lives, their finances, their portfolios, their relationships, and their health.
Thank you for chronicling all that. And I would imagine it's such a trying time for individuals that are reaching out to you, as you just mentioned, balancing the failing health of their parents and then also having their own busy lives. Annalee, how are you helping them through that? Is it simply guidance on how to navigate it? Is it more than that? Just tell us a little bit more there if you could.
So it's whatever they're willing to do to make their life better. So meaning the goal is that they actually invest in an aging plan. But the reality is, because they're coming to us in crisis mode, it's actually crisis planning. We have to handle the immediate need, like dad fell, he's the caregiver to mom with dementia. The kids are like, oh my gosh, now we have two aging parents. We live in New York and they live in Tucson, Arizona. What are we supposed to do? So most of the time it's just helping them right through this immediate crisis action that they're in right now, or predicament that they're in right now. But we know that we need to build out an actual longer term plan. But first we have to solve for the immediate crisis. And then they can come up for air. And then we can say, okay, well, we made it through this. Now we have care implemented, or dad is in skilled rehab for his stroke, but you still have mom at home. So we need to build out the rest of the aging plan so that these families can make informed decisions about aging in place at home. What does that really look like? The good, the bad, and ugly, and the expense of it. And that's where I come in with the advisors to say, hey, this is how much care is going to cost. What can you do with a financial plan to move some levers to help pay for cost for folks to be able to stay at home? But what's the plan look like if they aren't able to stay at home, so that families understand they may live in an area where there isn't good care or there's no care available. 30% of my clients who are trying to age in place at home are on all of the waiting lists of all the home care companies in their area, waiting for those home care companies to be able to hire more staff. So even if people want to age in place at home, they may not be able to because there's not available care workers, or they can't afford the $30 to $40 to $50 to $60,000 a month in 24/7 companion care. So we can do comprehensive planning like that, or if they just want like hourly consulting to say, hey, this is what's going on, what's the quick fix, then we've got services and solutions for literally every budget. It just depends on where they are in their care decision journey.
What do you find is typically the biggest issue in terms of creating a plan, or the biggest challenge? I find a lot of times with, especially around things like, aging parents, healthcare decisions, even with younger families, estate issues, that oftentimes, everybody wants to come up with some kind of plan and they're looking for the perfect answer, but they get held up because a lot of times you're unfortunately forced to pick, the best of all bad options.
That's what it
How do
works.
you get them to move along in a plan which, might feel terrible whichever direction they go in?
Right. Well, the key, the key, and that's why everything that comes out of my mouth is proactive aging planning, so that you can have the best family dynamic experience and the best care options and the best safety options for your parents. But unfortunately, my biggest obstacles and challenges, probably like you when you're working with your clients too, is just getting them to see the value of putting a plan in place wherever they are in their journey, right? So if I can convince a family to say, hey, your parents, we don't get healthier, more able-bodied, more cognizant, and more mobile and more independent as we age. Let's face this reality straight on and let's put a plan in place. My obstacles are that families, and it's shame on the healthcare industry for this, but the healthcare industry has allowed these families to fall through the cracks. I should not have such a vibrant, thriving business as a family consultant. It's just, here's the problem is doctors will say, okay, Martha, you have Parkinson's disease. Good luck to you. So these families, that's why they don't understand what disease that they have. They don't understand dementia or whatever disease they have. They don't understand how to navigate the senior care industry, and they certainly don't understand the cost. Most families think that Medicare is going to pay for all of this care, and it just does not. So those are some of the biggest obstacles, is just ignorance in that they don't know what they don't know. And when they try to put their own plan together, it fails because they don't know what they don't know.
Annalee, you mentioned a couple times already the cost and how that can be obviously a massive financial undertaking. And then also you mentioned home health care, which I would assume is a preference in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
is understaffed and often unavailable. So I would imagine between the financial challenges that go along with this care and the lack of good options, maybe adult children are getting pushed into these roles more than they ever wanted to or are capable of. How does that all play out typically?
That's exactly what happens. We know that the bulk of care is actually provided by family. And it's really only when they end up burned out or realize that home care is out there and potentially available in their area, that's when the adult kids are like, look, we need to figure out what we're going to do, because what we're doing is not sustainable. These adult kids are flying back and forth to wherever their kids live or to wherever their parents live. And it's just, they're taking 2 and 3 weeks off at a time. When you have to get to Arizona from New York or wherever, airfare isn't $69 on Frontier. It's like $800 or $1,200. It's not sustainable for families to keep jostling their own life and their own careers and businesses around, trying to manage to the best of their ability their aging parents' needs. A lot of my clients, they're tending to up to 4 or 6 aging parents because they've got in-laws, outlaws, they've got blended families. And so these poor kids, these poor adult kids, they're like, oh my gosh, now dad's in the hospital, now stepmom's in the hospital, and they're all across the country. And so they don't even get an actual vacation. Their vacation days and PTO is back and forth, making sure someone that's elderly in their family is taken care of. And it's just not sustainable. They're taking money out of their retirement account. They're having to take out personal loans to try to pay for care because their parents don't have the money, or their parents refuse to take care of the financial cost of being to try to stay at home. So it's a disaster. And that's why I call it the caregiver crisis.
Do you find working with families that unfortunately they're not proactive, but part of that issue is that they try for as long as possible to find a way to make it work because they are aware, they might not be aware of the total cost, and they might not be aware of how other options might help them in that area, but they think that it's going to be a tremendous cost, and they just try for as long as possible to handle it on their own until they get to that breaking point where, as you said, it's just so disruptive to either their family, their marriage, their job, that then they're coming to you in crisis mode. Then off you go with it to the rescue.
This is kind of how I equate care right. I'm kind of the ER for burned out family caregivers. I get them patched up enough. If they only want to do hourly consulting and instead of actually putting a plan in place, then I get them patched up enough and send them back out to the world. But that's why I'm always trying to encourage families, let's make sure that we have an actual sustainable, viable plan put in place so that every time dad falls or if mom wanders out of the house again, your whole life is not now discombobulated, because now we'll make sure that we have enough supports and care in place. Or if staying at home isn't an option because mom refuses the care, or every time daughter Sally hires caregivers to come out and take care of mom and dad, but mom and dad fire the caregivers, then Sally's like, oh, for the love of Pete, what am I supposed to do? And so then that's when parents end up, unfortunately, into different care communities. And if they didn't plan ahead, and, some of these more quality care communities can have 40 people on the waiting list or 3 to 5 year waiting list. And consumers or families don't realize that. They just kind of assume that it's the Marriott, that, oh, well, I want to go, we're going to bring mom in next week. And that's that's as easy as it is. And I'm like, no, you have to have a doctor's order. They have to be qualified to move in. They have to have an opening. They have to be able to provide quality care. So there's a lot of those types of nuances that families and quite frankly, a lot of other industries just don't really realize because that's not their scope of practice.
Annalee, in addition to being a major disruption, as you and Kevin were outlining, to the adult children professionally and personally, my guess is there are times where the adult child that's giving the caregiving just might not be qualified enough, and maybe the parent would have a better quality of life if they had the right type of care. So is that also a risk, right? Maybe because it's savings, or maybe there's guilt, or maybe there's a bunch of reasons why they're not pursuing that. But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, there's a huge can of worms with that one. So 58% of adult kids get thrust into family caregiving. They're ill-equipped. They've never had any family meetings. They don't even know if their parents have estate documents in order or living wills or anything like that. And the reality is we've got a lot of adult kids taking care of aging parents who don't feel comfortable doing it. They're in over their heads, or maybe they don't have the personality to be a caregiver. And they're like, look, this is not my thing. I don't like this, but they don't know that there's other options. Or maybe mom or dad were just awful parents. They were terrible parents. And now that mom had a stroke, the kids are like, gosh, we've never liked her. She's just mean. And now we have to take care of her. Like, that's why 85% of my week is spent doing family mediation. I hear it all. So we've got all these people in a role that doesn't necessarily feel comfortable for them for whatever reason, personality wise, relationship wise. Maybe it's an only son, it's an only child, and the daughter-in-law never liked the parents, the in-laws in the first place. And now the only son, the son-in-law, or the son to the parents that need care, is trying to juggle and keep peace with mom and dad and his wife. And so there's all these things that take into consideration. Or blended families. A lot of times these adult kids actually never met each other until one of the parents had a stroke or dementia progression. A lot of our seniors are getting married, in their 70s, 80s, and sometimes 90s. And so the kids really don't have any kind of relationship with each other. But now that one parent is struggling, the adult kids will say, well, we don't want our mom taking care of your dad because he's going to hurt her because he's 6'4" and mom's only 5'4" or whatever. And so there's always blended family issues, or there's always family relationship issues. And even for the most close-knit families, if they don't have an aging plan like what we do, and they will find themselves in over their head and their lives derailed if they don't have a plan. And so even the most close-knit family relationships can get those wedges in them. And the other thing, I would not be able to sleep at night if I did not say this part, but if your family relationships are already strained and cracked from brother Tom saying something stupid at Christmas 30 years ago, and that broke the family apart, it's very unrealistic to think that magically your family is going to start getting along now that mom had a stroke and dad has dementia, right? So we just need to be realistic about those family relationships.
And I'd guess, Annalee, that there's plenty of families that don't have family strain coming into it, but now they're trying to come up or decide to work with you, and one family member thinks it's a great idea to put a plan in place, but another family member does not think mom or dad needs this plan at all. And there's so much emotion related to that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you see that a lot. How do you
Every day.
navigate your way through those situations where the family's not on board with what is needed for mom or dad?
Yeah, that's literally every day that I see that, because that's why like I talk about, some of the obstacles are denial. Adult kids don't think that their parents are doing as poorly at home as they really are, because they're missing the red flags, weight loss, increased memory impairment, dings on the car, parents having bruises, or not taking their medications properly, or not being able to take care of their mail management. And so they've got 4 months of mail stacked up. So a lot of the issues are denial. They think their parents are doing better than they really are. And a lot of it too is just, they don't know what they don't know. So they'll say things, the kids will say things like, well, Dad, you're just getting lazy. You're not cleaning the house anymore. You're not taking care of yourself. When they don't realize that Dad had a fall and he lost all confidence in walking on his own. So now he's sitting in the recliner more. And so, yeah, he's not going to run a vacuum. He's not going to be doing all the things that he used to be doing, because once they fall and they lose that confidence, that's when we start seeing them really lose their mobility because they're afraid. So there's just a lot of unknowns that families find themselves in. And you're right, there's usually one adult kid that's like, see, they're wise, they can see the writing on the wall. Maybe they're more involved, or they live across the street and they're like, wow, I'm telling you, mom is calling me 7 times a week because she fell or she can't find something. And if the siblings don't take heed and listen to the concerns of the primary caregiver, the person who gets the brunt of the calls, then those relationships absolutely have a wedge in it. And I can promise you, parents don't want their kids to never speak to each other again just because of caregiving struggles. And that's often what happens is once mom and dad pass away, the kids never talk to each other again. And that's never what parents want.
Annalee, you have laid out the benefit of being proactive here just through these conversations. I would imagine, too, it can be challenging as the children to have these conversations with their parents, right? That might be emotionally taxing and the parents could get angry, right? So they're fearful of that. How should children broach this subject with their parents?
Yeah, so leverage this podcast and say, I was listening to this podcast and we talked about, the what whens of aging and things that we should be thinking about, like what are your goals as you age? Mom and dad, is it important for you to have as much say as possible in your care and where you live when you need care? Is it important for you to have as much independence and dignity as possible as you age? And I coach families on how to do this, because it's always the adult kids. They're like, oh, Annalee, sold. We need this because what we're doing as a family isn't safe and it's not sustainable. But how do we get mom and dad on board? So I always say, I show them different podcasts, or I send them my book, The Invisible Patient, and say, these are different ways that you can broach the topic, but also leverage a recent incident. Maybe dad just got out of the hospital. Leverage that and say, Dad, you made it through this hospitalization, or we made it through this as a family, but it really brought to light how ill prepared we are about understanding care options and the cost of care. And we've never really talked about what are your goals as you age. And if your goal is to age in place at home, that's great, but your house isn't senior safe. You've got 2 floors, the washer and dryer's in the basement. Like you have a half bath in your main floor. Or how are you going to afford $30,000 a month in 24/7 care if your goal is to stay at home? Like, what did you put in place? What do you have in place to accomplish your goals? So those are different ways you can leverage it. Or oftentimes what happens is the primary caregiver spouse, who's also in their 80s, passed away. And so now the kids are left with their, remaining parent, and they're like, wow, we did not understand this whole aging, dying, senior care process. We better now put a plan in place for our other parents so that we don't go through that again with dad.
Once you get them on board, Annalee, what does the process look like? My mom is sick and my brothers and sisters have decided we need to get a plan in place before she gets any sicker. How does that go when we start working with Care Right?
So it starts with a 30-minute consult. It starts with an email introduction. Just pointing someone to my website is not going to do anything. They won't reach out. But for those who want to do like an email introduction and say, look, we've got your financial plan in place as an example, but just as important is an actual aging plan. The 30-minute consult is via Zoom. We work with families all across the country, no matter where they live and no matter where they are in their care decisions journey. We do the 30-minute consult, hear what their situation is, and then we propose what solution is going to be the best fit for them. But again, because they're coming to us in crisis, they really need that aging plan, crisis plan. So we facilitate their family meetings. So much of it is really just educating them about aging, family caregiver burnout, dementia progression, understanding what a senior safe house looks like. What's the plan if mom or dad can't stay at home? So that whole first section of the aging plan is really educating them as a family, and my clients, the whole family. So we've got mom and dad, if it's appropriate to have them on, if they're not in the ICU or too demented to participate. But that way we can build out the plan. And we also do what's called a care matrix, because again, families don't understand the actual cost of care. They don't understand that, home care has shift minimums of 4, 6, 8, 10, 12-hour shifts. So it really helps them understand the lay of the land for senior care. And then for us to also outline 5 to 8 different care community options, because that's plan B. If plan A is staying at home and that doesn't work out and it's not safe or feasible or affordable, now the families can understand the landscape of senior care in the area of what are the waiting lists, how much net worth do you have to be able to financially qualify to get into these different care communities. We first look at the state surveys. So for us to even provide 5 to 8 different care community options, we tend to have to rule out 10 to 20 care communities because they've been cited for abuse or neglect. And it's usually that, again, since the pandemic, or they live in an area where a CCRC, a continuing care retirement community, you had to have moved in at an independent living and not at assisted living or memory care. So everything we do in this planning process is much like what advisors do. You educate families so then they can make informed decisions about, in my case, care options and where they're going to live as they age, but also providing care advocacy for families so that they do have the best quality of care possible.
And is there any execution on your part, or is it mostly education and direction that then the family executes on putting the plan in place?
Yeah, so I kind of swiped the financial services business model. So families can pay us just to put this aging plan in place. And then we go through the 4 pages of recommendations, like get your grab and go done, like get your estate documents in order, get everything in place. Let's start interviewing home care companies and getting home care put in place. Let's start touring the care communities from the care matrix. Let's keep the family momentum of the family communication and family meetings and understanding dementia. So they can pay for just, phase 1 of putting this plan in place and say, yep, okay, we're going to implement these 21 things, these 21 recommendations. Or what most families do is they stay on our retainer care package model. So just like families stay on your model, continue to get your education and support. I have that same business model. It's just that I call it care packages. And that way then me and my team, or my team and I, can help them implement it and keep that momentum going. And so most families stay on our services until their parents pass away, because that aging process is bumpy. What happens when families when they don't stay on the care packages, then they'll say, are you sure that you are going to tackle all of these recommendations and implement this plan on your own? You're disciplined enough and you have time enough to do that, and emotional and time bandwidth. And they're like, yeah, sure. So I'm like, okay. But then they'll call back a few weeks or a few months later, and they're really panicking because they're like, Annalee, mom had another fall and we can't, we're scheduled to go on vacation and we don't. I'm like, okay, so how far did you get in implementing your plan? Like, did you do any of it? And they're like, no, we got busy. I'm like, yeah, that's why we have you stay on services. So that's why I always encourage families, stay on the care package retainer model. So you get priority on our calendars and we can help you implement this plan at the pace that makes sense.
That sounds very, very familiar.
Yeah,
they try to keep the cost to them down until they realize that didn't really get them anywhere, and then they go on the do it for me model.
Yeah, and the opportunity cost is significant, right? Like it's cheaper in the short run and the long run to pay a professional to keep you motivated, to keep you on track, because my clients tend to be high net worth, and so they're used to delegating things out, right? But you can only delegate so much out if you're wanting to still be actively involved. And so that's why we always encourage families, just stay on the retainer model. It's going to save you time, money, and stress in the short run and the long run. Because if you have to keep flying back and forth every time there's a problem, or you still don't understand dementia and dad is now in stage 3 dementia and you're still like, I don't know, is he ever going to get better? Like that's the value of making sure that you're properly supported all the way through.
That makes a lot of sense. As part of your services, education's a big part of what you do. And a lot of folks are coming to you, unfortunately, in crisis mode. I would imagine at times there's somebody that's really steadfast about home health care, but maybe doesn't understand the challenges and diminishing health of a big diagnosis like dementia or Parkinson's or ALS or something like that, right? So, how are you helping them navigate through that and the level of care they're going to need? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so that's again why we do the 30-minute consult, so I can gauge and ask them, here's what different options are. Like I said, I'm a farm kid. We work smarter, not harder. Just do it right the first time, and then you don't have to do it again, right? That's just common sense. But not everybody has that type of mindset, or they just don't have the emotional bandwidth because they made the promise to mom and dad that we'll keep you at home, or the husband made the promise to his wife, I'll keep you at home no matter what. And so they don't have they're so burned out and they're so much in survival mode, just trying to get through the day of care needs, that they can't even fathom thinking about next week or tomorrow or moving into a care facility, because they're so steadfast on trying to stay at home. So we have an aging in place at home only plan package where we don't even talk about senior care because they can't wrap their mind around it. And that's social work 101, right? Start where your client is comfortable starting. Then in time, when they realize that staying at home might not be safe or no longer viable, then by then we've already got the relationship that we can say, okay, now do you feel like you have the bandwidth? Are you comfortable talking about plan B of if they can't stay at home and not moving in with you? So the only other option is moving into a care community. So that way we can kind of graduate them up into more comprehensive planning when they're ready, instead of us pushing an agenda on them. Even though we all know that they need a comprehensive plan, you have to start where the client's really comfortable and ready to start.
Annalee, what have we missed, or what should have we asked along the way here? Anything that you think is really important to get out to the audience?
Yeah, your audience is probably mixed of families and advisors, correct?
Yes, I would say that's right. A lot of advisors that are listening to us because we're affiliated with the Financial Planning Association of New England, but we also have families and people interested in personal finance listening too.
Yeah, and just so you know, I'm speaking at the FPA annual event again at the MGM in November of this year. So if you're going to be at the conference, it'd be great to connect with you. But for the advisors listening to this podcast, thank you for all that you do, because it's hard work. I speak at your major conferences, the AICPA, CIMA, IWI, FPA, NAIFA, NAPA. Like, I speak at all these major conferences, and when I'm not speaking and I go to the other breakout sessions, I'm like, God, you guys have to know like everything. But you don't have to be. I'm here to reassure you that you don't have to now become a senior care expert, a dementia expert, a family mediator, a social worker. I'm saying, that's why I encourage advisors, since I started training them in 2011, start using a collaborative team approach. You've got the financial plan and the tax planning and estate planning down, and that's your scope of practice. But now it's time to introduce clients to people like me, who my expertise is aging, family caregiving, blended families, family dynamics, grief, death and dying, and all that, the what whens of aging stuff. So as advisors, start asking your clients, what keeps you up at night? What challenges might you be having in your personal life? Or what challenges might you be having at home? If your book of business is the Ethels and the Marvins, ask them what challenges might, say it that way, what challenges might you be having at home? Are you falling? Are you getting to your doctor's appointments? Are you having trouble with your medications? Ask those types of questions. Or if your, clients, ask them, are you a family caregiver? What kind of conversations have you had with your family about the what whens of aging? What do you have in place? Do you have long-term care insurance? Do you have estate documents in order? What's the plan if mom has a stroke tomorrow? And as advisors, you want to get to know the whole family. That's why advisors like referring their families to us, because we include you on these family meetings and the family care matrix. So then you can see, oh my gosh, this is the cost of care, just in case you have to adjust the financial plan in some way, but at least it also educates you. And the other value proposition is then you get to know the whole family, whether the generation up or the generation down. because family legacy has been kind of a buzzword, obviously, in your industry the last few years, and you don't want to lose that book of business when Ethel or Marvin passes away. You want to have that relationship with that next generation down. So there's a lot of value proposition of working together, but those are questions to start asking your clients. Reassure them you've got their financial plan in place, but what else is keeping you up at night? What worries you? Do you have a loved one with dementia? Just ask them those questions and say, we've got your plan in place, but we also need to have an aging plan in place.
And Annalee, if a advisor or a family wants to reach out to you to at least have that consult at Care Right and see what makes sense, how can they go about doing so?
Yep. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Annalee Kruger on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me on my Care Right Inc. website. And there's a button you can push for, contact us, or you can fill out the contact us form. And then one of my teammates will circle back and get us calendared.
Excellent. We can put that information in our show notes. We'll also add the invisiblepatientbook.com in the show notes if anybody wants to take a look at your book as well. We really appreciate you joining us, a topic that I think everybody has some understanding of, a personal experience with, but it's such a broad and deep topic that people need education on. We value the work you're doing, and thank you for sharing some of the thoughts here today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do as well. We all have to work as a team so that our clients have the best possible outcomes. And so it's been really pretty refreshing the last few years to have the financial services industry to say, hey, you know what, we do need to start collaborating. So it's really great. So thank you for all that you do.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Annalee.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about the Financial Planning Association or FPA New England, visit our websites, financialplanningassociation.org for the National Association or fpanewengland.org. You can learn more about our organization and all the upcoming chapter events. We hope you'll join. That's fpanewengland.org. Until next time, have a wicked good day.